again. Today I'm gonna comment for the Leeches channel. The games should begin already now in a minute. So we have just 50 seconds to go. We had fantastic and very, very exciting way of the guys to qualify. Magnus Carlsen won this time the qualifiers. So 16 players, 8 players did qualify for the quarterfinals. Now we are going to see 2 matches out of 4 games each. So today 4 games, tomorrow is a rematch out of 4 games. 8 great players. I found it a bit strange that Radjabov did not qualify as well as Mamedyarov. It was quite surprising. Both of them are extremely strong. But well, in a tough field, of course, this can happen. Let's see. Let's see. Now in 5 seconds the games should begin. So we are going over to broadcast. Playing right now. And yeah, here we go. We have Magnus Carlsen against Levon Aronian. It's going to be a very, very exciting match. Then we have Nakamura against Nepomniachtchi as well. And Nakamura is a legend in especially online chess. Maybe the strongest player online actually, especially in blitz chess, in bullet chess. And he begins with e4 against Jan Nepomniachtchi. From Nepomniachtchi you can expect like anything. The guy is playing so fast. Very well in calculations, interesting opening lines, so it's gonna be a very exciting match as well. Wesley So against Firuza. Wesley So, who is doing so well in the tournaments of Magnus Carlsen. He won already 2 of them. He's playing against the rising star Firuza. Firuza played very well in Vaikandze. He almost shared the first place. In the last round he made a draw in a winning position, otherwise he would be sharing first with Giri and Van Forest. So the young guy, Alireza Firuza, just 17 years old, already in the top 15 of the world. Some are saying he might be the next Magnus Carlsen. He has a tough match against Wesley So. Wesley So is doing so well in this online events. And then we have, of course, Anish Giri in top shape the last couple of months. Anish is playing so well. He's playing against Maxim Vashilograf. You know that I am quite a fan of Maxim. He is so good in rapid chess, he is so strong in blitz chess. But somehow lately he is not doing too well. The candidates are approaching and Maxim is one of the leaders in the candidates. They will be starting, I think, in April, middle of April. So just a month to go. Now we see Maxim qualifying quite easily for the top 8. But Maxim is clearly not in the best shape ever in the past month. So we are going to see how well actually Maxim is going to do against Anish Giri, who is in absolutely best shape. He is in an amazing shape. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be very, very exciting. The game should start. So we have just 1 game started so far, the game of Nakamura against Jan Nepomniachtchi. We see Naiditsch with bishop to e3, knight to g4 by Nepomniachtchi. Small repetition. Of course, Nakamura is not making a draw. He plays on. We can expect to see quite a long theoretical line, and this is what is happening right now. We have the line with h4, bishop to e6. Both players are playing very, very fast, so the position is well known to both of them. Let's see if Magnus, yes, Magnus begins his game with d4. For the moment we're not seeing a move from Aronian. I guess, yeah, we have some small delay. For the moment, nothing. Okay, here we have Wesley So against Firuza as well. We have e4 in the game of Wesley So against Firuza. So we have e4, c5, and bishop b5 check. Okay, not the main line, but of course bishop b5 is well known, and bishop g7, f3, quite an important move order. To play short castle is not very precise because there is this trick f3, rook c8, b3 and d5, and knight take d5 is possible now. Knight take d5 and there's e6, and the game is basically a draw. So This is why white begins with a move f3. So now after short castle there will be no short castle by white, but there will be, for example, bishop e3. That's why f3 first. Queen c7 is as well the main line of theory. b3, queen a5. For the current moment we are still in theory, but of course just 10 moves been played so far. We have Anish Giri against Maxim Vashelagraf. Still the game did not start yet. We have to wait for the game to begin. Let us go back to the game of Magnus Carlsen. The first moves are falling as well here. We have Nimzo. We have Nimzo from Magnus Carlsen. Well, a bit unexpected. Usually Magnus is not playing that much of a Nimzo. But we have Nimzo with queen to c2. And Aronian is playing short castle a3, d5. Well, a very normal line. Bishop g5. And he goes directly with c5. Quite often, actually, Aronian is choosing quite forced lines against Magnus Carlsen. Why is he doing so? Maybe he's feeling that he has to use this sort of opening direct play to counter Magnus Carlsen, because I mean, it's tough. It's tough to play an unknown position against Magnus. He's just so good. He is outplaying you. So Aronian is trying to play force lines, trying to really dominate sort of in the opening phase of the game to get Magnus to a position which he knows quite well. And sometimes he is succeeding, sometimes he is not. So for the moment we have Nimzo with queen c2. I think Magnus surprised Aronian a little bit with the opening choice. But Aronian is very well prepared. Actually, as usual, Aronian is usually very well prepared. And we have this line with c5, dc, and d4. Still, of course, we are in the basically beginning of the theory of this line. And Magnus is already thinking a little bit, but this is normal. He likes, Magnus Carlsen likes to spend some time even in positions which he knows pretty well. It is something that, let's say, Giri is never doing. When you're playing Anish Giri, you know quite precisely in case he is still in his preparation or he is not, because he is banging out the moves so fast in the opening in case he is sure of what he is doing. And in case of Magnus, you are never sure. He might know the position very well, but he still slow plays sort of his hand. So in case of Magnus, you're really never sure to 100% does he know this position, or maybe you managed to surprise him. And I think Aronian is thinking more or less the same. Of course, he understands that Magnus probably did not expect this line with c5 and d4. But on the other hand, Magnus knows really almost everything. He is well prepared. The guys, his seconds, are working on the opening repertoire, so Aronian is well aware that the game has just started and that Magnus thought a little bit before playing queen to f3. This does not mean really a thing. Let's go to Nakamura against Nepomniachtchi. Well, we have already a lot of action going on currently. So we had the position after bishop to e6. This is a position we saw the last, so bishop e6. We have this long castle now, very normal. Rook to c8 as well, quite typical. As we can see, this big pressure on the c file. f4 by Nakamura covering the e5 square, quite important as well. Somewhere 5 might be possible. So we have f4, bishop take b3, cb. Wow, amazing. Just take a look at this move, c take b3. In case you're not aware of theory, how you will be ever able to play a move like c take b3 where you have the rook on c8? Basically, in case you are not sure what you should do next, you will never play c take b3. For sure you're going to take a take b3, which looks pretty normal. After a take b3, the idea of Nepomniachtchi might have been to play queen to a5, so we have the threat of playing queen a1, and in case of king b1 there is knight b4 coming. Huge pressure on the knight on c3, then the queen can get to a2 square. Just amazing pressure by Jan Nepomniachtchi already in the first moves of the Naiditsch opening. So the position is really complex. So we have this bishop take b3 and c take b3 played by Nakamura. Nakamura spent 1 minute and 10 seconds so far. It is not much. I think Nakamura is quite ready. He is ready to play Naidorf, and as any Naidorf game, you must be psychologically ready to risk a lot. Especially when you play a guy like Jan Nepomniachtchi, because Nepomniachtchi is basically fearless. The guy doesn't know what it means to have fear. Nepomniachtchi is just pushing and pushing and pushing. So we can expect a very, very exciting game now between Nakamura and Nepomniachtchi. Let's see if something is possible. On the C file, of course, Nepomniachtchi is calculating moves as b4. He might be able to play queen a5 still, but of course king b1 is going to be countered by Nakamura. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting game, and the next couple of moves will decide a lot about the result of the game, because in case Nakamura manages to get his king from the c file to b1, Nakamura might want just to play a silent move as bishop to e2, the knight on g4 will be hanging, so the black king on e8 will be sort of in trouble. Of course, Jan Nepomniachtchi might try to castle short side, but as we see, the h file is open, so it's getting very tricky with the black king. The next moves are really, really important for the evaluation of the opening, if white is better or maybe black is just doing fine. Nepomniachtchi is thinking already for 3 minutes. It's quite a lot of time for Nepomniachtchi. He plays usually so fast, but here he really needs to calculate what he wants to do next. Okay, let's go for Magnus against Aronian. So we have queen f3, knight d7 played, and e3 by Magnus Carlsen. Aronian seems to be a little bit surprised by the move e3. Well, to me, e3 looks pretty normal. I mean, Magnus wants to get his bishop, of course, back to the game as well. Let's get rid of the pawn on d4. Maybe Aronian is thinking, maybe I should play e5 right now. Maybe there is a way to take on c5, even directly to take on c5 might be an option. But still, yeah, there are a lot of moves, and we have the move h6 played by Aronian. Magnus takes on f6. Magnus plays very fast. Bishop take f6. I think it is a sign that probably Magnus is still in his preparation. We have the long castle played fast by Magnus. e5 with the idea of playing bishop to g4. And we see the knight e2 move played as well, very fast by Magnus Carlsen. So it was sort of a little trick by the world champion. He thought before playing queen to f3 after the move d4 by Aronian, and now he plays very fast. So yeah, he is clearly still in his preparation. So welcome guys, welcome you all to the channel. Just wanted to repeat shortly, my name is Arkadij Naiditsch, I am a chess grandmaster, and today I'm commenting on the Lichess channel. So we are in quarterfinals. We can expect a lot of different action here, and a lot of exciting games. We have really super players qualified for the top 8 absolute world class players. There is no sort of victim inside this field. All of the guys are so strong, and let's see who will manage to get to the final. Let's take a look at Anish Giri. Anish Giri is still not playing. Seems like they had some trouble with the broadcast of the game, Anish Giri and Maxim Shilagov, so we have nothing else left than to keep on waiting. For the moment, let's check Vesliso against Firuza. So we saw this position after f3 move. Now we have queen c7, b3, queen a5, bishop d2, knight to c6. Knight on d4 is under attack, knight to e2. In case Vesli would take on c6, it's possible to play for white this sort of structures, but personally I believe this is around equal. I think white is not really having the advantage. This pawn on c6 is perfectly placed, covering the d5 square, so there is no more knight d5, or let's say not so effectively, and black is usually doing fine. So we have knight e2 move by Vesli. So as we can see, the knight just goes back, so we have this knight d5 idea for the future. Short castle, knight to d7, king to h1, prophylactic, very nice. King to h1. We have knight to c5, knight d5, now queen to d8 with the idea of playing e6 next. Now, Wesley saw bishop c3, trying to change the bishop on g7, the master bishop of black. Black bishop on g7 is just a beast. So, bishop c3. Firuza is taking on c3 and knight takes back from d5 to c3, a6. As we know, in such structures, the main idea of black is basically to get the pawn to b5, so or to play rook to b8 followed by b5. The other idea is to play e6 and d5. So in case black manages to get b5 or e6 and d5, the position is basically equal. This is why Wesley So is playing now a4. As you see, he's preventing this idea of b5. Even if maybe, even without a4, there is no direct threat of playing b5, but sometimes, somewhere, b5 might happen. So Wesley So does not really want to calculate anything which is connected to the move b5, just ensures himself, I am not gonna let b5 and plays a4. So rook c8. Probably gonna see a move as rook to b1. It is quite typical to get the rook to b1, so we are protecting the pawn on b3, then the queen is getting to d2, then we see rook to d1, so it's sort of slow play. Sometimes black might be able to prepare a move as f5, but usually white is doing a bit better even after f5 push. So as we see rook b1 played by Wesley so we guess this move correctly. Personally, I think that the position of white is slightly better, but it is not much better. So slight advantage for Wesley So, but it is a risk-free position for Wesley So, and this is exactly what he likes. Wesley does not like to play very sharp positions. He's, in my opinion, a positional player. He does it very well. He plays fast. He plays very precise when it comes to a calculation of some concrete things. So Wesley, I think, is quite happy with the opening stage. And for Firuza, Firuza is a very aggressive player. He needs clear play, and for Firuza it's not that simple, and he does not like to play positions which are slightly worse with no direct play. So yeah, for the moment I see Wesley So with some opening advantage, and I think he reached what he wanted. What's the match format? They are playing today 4 games, and tomorrow they are playing 4 games. So it's sort of 2 matches out of 4 games, and of course the winner passes to the next round. So we have, let's go to Nakamura. Let us take a look at Nakamura, and we have c take b3, queen to b6 with the idea of playing knight to e3 next. And Nakamura is playing rook to h3, amazing. Still Hikaru is not afraid of the c-file. Wow, this is very, very interesting, because I think many of us would be very scared to keep on going with the king on c1. So king to b1 is something to consider, but Nakamura says no. He plays rook to h3. There is no more knight to e3. And yeah, let's see what Nepomniachtchi actually planned to do on the c-file. Nepomniachtchi already very short on time. I rarely see Nepomniachtchi having 5 minutes when the opponent has still 13 on the clock. Usually it is the other way around. Jan Nepomniachtchi is really playing fast, but this time Nakamura seems to have surprised him, and having the large time advantage. We have short castle by Nepomniachtchi, king b1 by Nakamura, very, very normal. So I believe right now we can be sure already white is doing better, because we have the safe king on b1, time advantage for Nakamura. So I think, yeah, Nakamura is doing very, very well. To your information, I'm always commenting without the engine, so no engines are turned on. I think engine gives us a bad feeling. In case we take a look at such games, especially rapid chess games, blitz games with an engine, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us to estimate who is actually doing better. So I'm commenting without the engine. I try to give you the feeling about what the players might think about. Of course, engines are very strong. Of course, you can get more precise evaluation in case you're using the engine. But the players are playing without an engine, and I think it's much more fun for us as well to use our own head. Okay, so let's go back to Magnus against Aronian. Ooh, knight take f2. Wow. Let us take a look. Knight to e2. Now we have bishop g4, queen g3, knight e4, queen take g4, and queen to f3. Magnus still plays very fast. It seems like he knows exactly what he's doing, but does he really know what he's doing? This looks absolutely insane. White is still undeveloped with a rook on h1, bishop f1, knight e2. In case of king take d1, Aronian, in case he takes on e3, so there's this check from d8. Queen d5 seems to be one of the only options. Otherwise, the black queen would enter to d2. So we have this queen to d5. Now Aronian might try with queen to a5. We have this very dangerous threat of playing rook to d8. It looks so scary. It just looks extremely scary for white. I mean, in case I would be white here, I would be very worried. It is so difficult to get these pieces inside the game. Looks just too scary. So let's see what Magnus is going to play after knight take d1. In case he is not taking his knight on d1, of course black wants just to take on e3. There is e take d4, which is making sense. But in case of e take d4, maybe Aronian can give a try with something with e4. So we're trying to get the queen on f3. Of course, there is no queen to e4 because of knight f2, and the rook on h1 is getting lost. So after e4, well, we have the opportunity. Let's get queen to g3 to avoid as well this check on g5. The knight on d1. Still no moves for the knight on d1. A very, very sharp position. Maybe there is something like f5, king to d1. Now we have this f4 move. Then Aronian might try to play f3, d4. Pawn might get weak. Insane position. Very tough to say who's doing better. And after king d1, de, this I do not like for white. So I think Magnus will try to get e take d4. Otherwise, I see not much white is able to play here. Maybe there is something like knight take d4, but it looks strange to give a knight. Queen take d1 is the idea, but I think black might just try to get queen to g5. c5 is hanging, e3 is hanging. In case of queen take d4, rook a8, it looks just better for black, at least to me. So yeah, I think we can expect e take to d4. It's gonna be a crazy position in the game of Magnus against Aronian, and it looked like Magnus been still in his lines, and now suddenly Magnus is thinking very strange, very strange. It makes not much sense from the logical point of view, because it looked like Magnus knows exactly what he's doing, and Aronian is playing, well, the most logical. Just grabs the rook on d1, and suddenly Magnus is thinking. So a little bit strange. It's a little bit strange. I believe we will see e take d4, but for now we have to wait because Magnus is still thinking. So a question to you guys: what do you think? Who is going to be the winner in the matches? Magnus Carlsen against Levon Aronian. Then we have Nakamura against Jan Nepomniachtchi. And Wesley So against Firuza, and then Anish Giri against Maxim Vachilagraf. Oh, now we have the moves. Now we have the moves as well in the game. Anish Giri against Maxim Vachilagraf. So we're gonna check this game. But still, who do you think are going to be the winners? To my choice, I think Magnus is gonna beat Aronian. Then we have Nakamura against Nepomniachtchi. My tip is Nakamura. Wesley So against Firuza. I am for Wesley So. And Anish Giri against Maxim Vachilagraf. I will tip on Maxim because I just like the way he plays. He plays very funny chess. It makes a lot of fun to watch Maxim Vachilagraf playing chess. So these are my 4 choices. Let us take a look now at the game. Anish Giri against Maxim Vachilagraf. We have Rauza. So Of course, Maxim Vasilogov is a Naidorf player, is an idol for Naidorf, but sometimes he lately started to switch to a Rouser. And Anish Giri playing the main line with a long castle, f3, not f4. Up today, f4 is the most popular. Anish Giri goes with f3, knight take d4, queen take d4, bishop e7, king b1. Of course, it is still a theory. G4 directly, h5. Yeah, still a theory. I remember when I've been a young boy, I've been as well looking at these lines. Yeah, it is still theory. Bishop e7, rook g1, g6. Interesting. Maxim is losing at tempo on playing g6. Of course, g6 is a very useful move, but still, in the Sicilian, we rarely see moves as g6 played by black in case there is no direct threat. And I do not see a direct threat, so a bit strange to me. G6. Queen d2. Nice play by Giri. Queen wants to get to g5. Knight f6. f4. Rook to g5. What a play. What a sharp play by both players. e5. Giri really goes for it. He wants the king of Maxim Vasilogov. Now we have knight to e8. Knight to e4. d5. Take. Queen b4 check. Interesting. A very interesting position. King to d8, knight to g5, bishop c6, queen f8, getting to the f7 pawn. Queen e7, of course, in case Maxim manages to get an endgame. I think this black's position should be just fine. So no endgame. Rook f5, knight g5. It just looks so scary with the king on d7. It looks amazingly scary, but Maxim is a Naidorf player, so you must be a little crazy to be a Naidorf player. I mean, who likes to play every game with a king on d7? But Maxim is someone that does it really well. So many times I saw Maxim saving and even winning unbelievably scary positions. And this is one of them. This is clearly one of them. It looks just almost lost with a king on d7. On the other hand, the pieces of black are pretty nicely placed. We have a strong bishop on d5, rook f4 is okay, knight is getting to f5. So let's see if Anish can mate Maxim Vasilogov. In case not, I think Maxim will be doing pretty fine. Maxim with 9 minutes on the clock and Anish Giri with 4 minutes 42 seconds. The game is really interesting and very sharp. So let's go back to Magnus Carlsen. We saw this position after knight take d1. We have the move e take d4. This is as well what we've been expecting. There is nothing better. So knight take b2 by Ronyan. We thought a little bit e4 might be a try, but well, of course the guys at the board know it much better than me because yeah, we have absolute top players completely focusing on their games. Knight take b2, king b2, and rook c8. Very interesting. So Ronyan is not taking the d4 pawn instantly, but first playing the move rook to c8. Very hard move. I mean, it's so difficult to understand moves as rook to c8. Magnus with d5, trying to keep the things as calm as possible around his king on b2. So what we have? White with 2 pieces for the black rook and a pawn. In case Magnus manages to get bishop e2, rook to d1, I believe the position of white should be better. On the other hand, still a long way to go. Bishop e2, rook to d1. These are 2 full moves. Ronyan will definitely try something with b5 somewhere. Might try f5, e4. In my opinion, the position is far from obvious. White might be doing better, but still very unclear. I think very unclear. Difficult to say if already white is doing better. Maybe even not. So hard to say. We are going to see if Magnus is going to win his first game with the white pieces. So we have Aronian with b5. Very nice. Aronian is going for it, and this is great. This is great. Such an exciting game by both players. Really beautiful chess. Beautiful and very high level chess by Magnus Carlsen and his opponent Levon Aronian, who, by the way, switched to the US Federation. I was amazed when I read it because Aronian been sort of a hero. He won 3 Olympiads, I think, or 2 Olympiads, I think, 3 Olympiads with a team of Armenia. And being an absolute hero, an idol of the country, switching to the US Chess Federation, I did not expect it to happen, and I was very surprised to see it. Who is a favorite? I think my favorite is Magnus, but well, the things can get very sharp, and Aronian is very, very strong in blitz chess and rapid chess, so yeah. Magnus is favorite, but I think maybe we might evaluate this match as 70-30 in favor of Magnus, maybe 60-40, but Aronian is definitely somebody who is capable of beating Magnus Carlsen, and he done it already many times. So we have b5, bishop e2 by Magnus Carlsen. Magnus is not taking the pawn on b5, and I think it's understandable. In case of c take b5, we have this queen a5 followed by rook c8. What a pressure on the c file. Amazing, looks very dangerous for white. And in case of knight take b5, we have just queen to b6, rook to b8, there's a6, and we have this open b file. I think, yeah, the position of the world champion would be as well here extremely dangerous. This is why Magnus Carlsen is choosing the silent move of bishop to e2. In case of b takes c4, he might just go king to a2. So the pawn on c4 sort of blocking the black rook on c5. Rook to b1 is getting very fast, and yeah, Magnus is still having these 2 pieces. So in a long run, white should be doing better. Let's see if Aronian finds something after bishop e2, except bishop b takes c4. Still, the things are very far from clear. A very, very exciting game between Magnus Carlsen and Aronian. Let's switch to Nakamura against Jan Nepomniachtchi. So we have already an endgame. Nepomniachtchi just 2 minutes on the clock, but Hikaru sought for a while. He has now 5. We saw the position after rook h3, short castle, king to b1, e6. After e6, Nakamura sought 5 minutes, so 5 minutes is quite a lot for a rapid game, and he's doing the move f5. I'm sure he's been calculating for a while moves as rook to g3. It feels so tempting to get the rook to g3, where we have this huge pressure on the g file, but Nakamura is starting with a move f5. Very risky decision. He's giving away the square on e5. Of course, he understands it perfectly. Nakamura is sure, sort of sure, that f5 is the correct way. He wants to get f6 next. E take f5, e take f5, queen d4. Jan Nepomniachtchi trying to change the queens away from the board, so Nakamura takes on d4 and gets his bishop to e2. Knight on g4 is under pressure. There is still rook g3 in the air. I believe white's position, at least to me, looks very nice. The position of Nakamura looks really, really good. I'm almost winning. I would say even almost winning. In case of something like knight to e5, they might be even knight to d5. Just take a look at this beautiful white pieces. Everything just perfectly placed. And there's knight f6 as a threat. h6 is weak. Bishop on d4 might be hanging somewhere. I think it is almost just game over. So Nakamura is doing very well. He is very close to the win in his first game. Okay, let's see. Veslisov against Firuza. So we have still this sort of positional game, but now it gets a bit more sharp. So we have white with a domination on the b file. Nice pawn on b5. And rook h3 is a threat somewhere. That's why Firuza plays rook to h7. We saw the last position after rook to b1. Now we have this queen d2. Very, very typical. e5. Ooh, surprising. This is very surprising. e5 gives away the square on d5. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if e5 is the right way to go on with black. f4. f6, f5. Wow, what a domination of the white pieces. Great game by Wesley So. Rook f3, rook g7, a5. Now he goes for the first lines, a5, b6, played by Firuza. Well, in my opinion, Wesley So is doing clearly better. We have this beautiful square on d5 for the white knight. Firuza might be trying to create something on the h file, but I think it's not enough. I think it's not enough. I think white is doing better, and Wesley So with more time on the clock. Firuza with just 2 minutes 20 left, so I think Wesley So with excellent chances for a full point at the current moment. Anish Giri. The situation has changed completely, and now it is Maxim Shilograf who is trying to give a mate to Anish Giri. Just a couple of moves before it was reversed, and it looks very scary. It looks very, very scary for Anish Giri. I think the position of white is just lost at the moment. I think Anish Giri is losing. He might be able to hold a draw somehow, but I don't see a draw. In case of king c2, there is always queen to b4. I don't see a mate to the black king, and white king is going to get mated. It looks very scary. It looks just too scary to be truth. I think Anish Giri will lose the first game with the white pieces against Maxima Shilograf. We saw the position after... This is what we saw, and bishop a3, yeah. From here, Maxima Shilograf with king to c6, unreal. Just take a look at this move. King to c6 is like, wow. There is a check on c8, there is a check on c1. I mean, not even king to c7, but king to c6. Unbelievable play by Maxima Shilograf. Queen c8 check, knight take e6. Now the things are getting forced. Rook d6 and rook take to e6. Okay, there is no more queen to e6 because probably there is a check and check on c7. So the white king is getting mated now. This is why rook to e6, rook c2, king b3, rook f3, king to c4. In case of king c2, probably queen b4 is winning now. The king is very, very alone on c2. So Anish is trying with king to c4, but I can't believe this can go well. There is queen h4 check now. I think the game should be just over, and yeah, we see queen h4, king to c5. So Anish tries to escape over d6 to e7 or something like that, but I think the game is just done. There is queen f2 check, and there is b6 as well. Yeah, I think Maxim will calculate this position till the end, and it looks just winning. I think it looks completely winning for Maxim Shilograf. So we have a very important win in the first round, or most probably we are gonna see a very important win by Maxim or Anish Giri. A very exciting game as well. Really nice play by both players. Let us go back to Magnus Carlsen and Levon Aronian. We had this position after bishop to e2, and Aronian is taking on c4, so he finds nothing better than to take on c4. I think with b takes c4 he admits that white should be better. We have f5, rook to b1, everything as expected. Queen to g5, not to give white queen to e3, after which the rook on c5 would be hanging, and queen on g5 of course wants to get to d2. Rook to d1, avoiding, but then the question is why actually Magnus did play rook to b1 first. Maybe he could have started with the rook d1 instantly. E4, queen to f2, e3, queen to g3. Of course, to reach an endgame is something very nice for white. King f7, rook f1, and rook to f3. The e3 pawn is getting very weak. Yeah, now Magnus is grabbing the pawn on e3, and I think the game is basically over. In my opinion, white is having a winning position. I can't imagine Levon Aronian having a chance of holding this position. Bishop d1, very nice there is this beautiful check on a4. So in case we would take on e3, there is rook e8. And now after bishop to d1, rook e8 is never possible any longer because of the check on a4. Beautiful, just beautiful play by Magnus Carlsen. Almost a perfect game. I mean, so strong. Unbelievably strong, the world champion. Playing very precisely, very fast. Aronian just with 30 seconds on the clock left. Very short on time. The e3 pawn is getting fallen. We have the check on a4, king to d8. Now Magnus will take e3 at some point. I think he might be even taking right now. There is bishop to c6 coming. Yeah, I think it is just hopeless. Hopeless for Levon Aronian. It was a tough fight, a very exciting game, but Magnus seems to be the better one. Beautiful, beautiful game by Magnus Carlsen. Nakamura against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Yes, Nakamura is winning his game. We are having very strange constellations. 3 pieces of white against just a rook on a1. I think it's time for Jan Nepomniachtchi to resign. Completely hopeless. A completely hopeless position for Jan Nepomniachtchi. The b pawn will start to walk. Bishop on c8 is controlling the h pawn of black. I don't know why Jan Nepomniachtchi is still playing. Makes no sense to me. There are no hopes. There are just no hopes, especially when you are playing Nakamura. Hikaru is just too strong. Now he's getting his knight to f2. The b pawn still walks. Hopeless. Just hopeless position for Jan Nepomniachtchi. And let's see how it came. So we saw the position after bishop to e2, and I thought that it might be very close to be winning for white. Knight to e3, rook g3, yeah. Complete game over. Complete game over, and very beautiful very beautifully played by Hikaru Nakamura. Bishop on d3. Bishop on f6. Now there is rook g7 coming next. There is bishop take d4. Amazing. Very beautiful play by Nakamura, really. Very nice. I mean, what a first round. We are seeing an unbelievable first round. Beautiful fighting games. So many nice ideas. Yeah, rook on c8 is falling as well. So white is completely winning. Nepomniachtchi is fighting. Let's see when he will resign. Yeah, he resigned actually. Knight to f2, b5, b6, b7, b8, queen. Beautiful. Great game by Nakamura, especially I think very spectacular the move of c take b3. Very, very nice. I mean, bishop b3 and Nakamura with cb. This is something that we should remember. C take b3. Just does not care about the c file. It was a game winner by Nakamura. C take b3, just beautiful. Wesley So against Firuza. Yeah, Wesley So is as well very close to win his game. White is having pawn up plus a weak black king. A5 is weak. The game is basically over. This is something as well what we did expect, because we saw this position. White is doing clearly much better, so this does not come as a big surprise. Wesley So is doing what he is doing best. He is technically very strong. He is a great positional player, and in the first game we can basically see that he outplayed Firuza. The move of Firuza e5 I did not like so much. I think he played too early the move a5, and Wesley So is of course doing a great job by giving absolutely no chances to Firuza. Still 3 minutes for Wesley So. Firuza with 1 minute on the clock. The things are getting very tough for Firuza. Okay, Anish Giri against Maxim Vashilograf. Yeah, Maxim won the game. This is what we expected to happen. So we have this king. The king of Anish Giri is running. Maxim is checking with b6. Yeah, we had this option of queen f2 check or b6. Maxim is calculating extremely well. So he is basically calculating till the very end. So we have this b6. King to c6. Queen c4. Very nice. King to d7. Rook to f7. Queen to c8. Yeah, of course, with a queen up, you have no chances against Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. He is just bringing his king closer. It is hopeless. It is just hopeless for Anish Giri. And Anish Giri resigns the game 1 with white. What an important win for Maxim Vachier-Lagrave in the first game with the black color. Let's go back to Magnus Carlsen against Levon Aronian. The game still goes on. We have, yeah, still, in my opinion, a winning position for Magnus Carlsen. Maybe Aronian wants to sacrifice on a4 and get the d7 pawn. Okay, this is a very nice idea by Aronian. Yeah, I think Magnus Carlsen is a bit surprised that actually it came to that, because rook take a4, still black with some chances, because there is rook e2 check after that. Maybe something went a little bit wrong for Magnus Carlsen, because it felt like, yeah, this sort of position should be quite easily winning. And we see this d6. Maybe the move d6 is not the best. Maybe Magnus should have played just bishop c6 first, then a4, king to a3. It looks quite winning. And d6, d7. I think Magnus underestimated the idea of playing rook to a5. But a beautiful idea of rook a5 by Aronian. Now he takes on a4, gives a check on e2. Still, Aronian is a little bit in the game. He tries to grab the a3 pawn, which is very crucial. On the other hand, still the position of white is looking winning. Magnus needs to keep one of these pawns alive, g2 or g3. One is enough to win the game. It should be possible somehow. I think pretty decent chances still for Magnus Carlsen to win the game. Draw. Why is it a draw? I don't see a draw at the moment, guys. I think white is doing better. We have the extra piece. There is knight b7 move, knight b2 move possible. I think it's not a draw by now. I think still good chances to win the game for Magnus Carlsen. And he plays knight to b2, rook to c3. Nice. Aronian is cutting the white king. Very nice. Yeah, preventing king c2. And rook take f5 by Magnus Carlsen. Now rook f2 is sort of a must. c4 is hanging. I think Magnus should be able to win the game. I think good chances of winning the game for white. But let's see. It's still not 100% sure. Rook g4, knight takes c4 next. Black should try to run with the king towards the g-pawn, but from the feeling, it is a winning position for Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, good comment. Needs a chess 1. Lichess is the best chess site. Definitely. I agree to this comment. Lichess is, from the programming point of view, amazing. The guys did an amazing job to program the Lichess server. Very strong. At least 2700 evaluating in chess ratings. Okay, Nakamura against Jan Nepomniachtchi, and yeah, we saw Nakamura winning his game. Now we have Veslesov against Firuza. White had an easily winning position. Still, it looks pretty winning for white, but maybe there are some chances for Firuza. It's sort of difficult to start moving the pawns, so little chances for Firuza. Should be winning for white. I think Veslesov might try to go for something like rook b2, rook to a2, then g4, h4. But still there is a little fight. There is still a little fight. Maybe first rook a6 actually. Just to have a nice rook on the a file. Yeah. So good chances. Veslesov just goes for the mate. He wants to mate Firuza. Firuza with 30 seconds on the clock. Veslesov still with 2 minutes. Yeah, I think he's gonna win. Veslesov is going to do the job. He's going to win the game against Firuza. Anish Giri lost already his game to Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. This is what we saw. So let us check. Magnus against Aronian. Magnus with a piece up. Still Aronian is fighting. He is fighting. He's giving absolutely his best. A very high level game between Magnus Carlsen and Aronian. Both players are playing really well, using all the possible chances, and still the position looks close to be winning for Magnus Carlsen. Aronian tries to give his best. I don't think he will manage to make a draw. Anyhow, a great game, a really great game by both players. Yeah. Very nice. Knight d1, rook d3 check. Interesting. Magnus with king c2 or king to e1. So Magnus prefers to keep the king on the c1 square, sort of, not giving a chance for Aronian to proceed with the a pawn. King to c2, I think it does not really matter. King c2 first, king c1 first. King on c2 is very nicely placed. Rook to d2, good question to the black king. King to e5, knight to c3, a4 pawn is very, very lonely. And in case the black king is getting to c4 or b4, then Magnus, I guess, will start at some moment to move the g pawn. Knight b2 check. So, where do we go? King to b4. Okay. Knight d3, king to c4. For the moment, there are no big changes. The rook on g3 is beautifully placed by Aronian. What could be the winning idea for Magnus Carlsen? Maybe something like knight e5 check. So, for example, knight e5, king b4. There is a check on d4 and king goes somewhere, rook to g4. The rook on g3 is really annoying, so we should try to get rid of this rook on g3. So we see knight e5 check. Aronian with king c5, very nicely placed, not giving a chance for rook d4, rook g4. Let's see if Magnus is able to win this position. For the moment, I think so. He should be able, but who knows? Veslisson is trying to win his game against Firuza. King on h4, of course, is very badly placed, so there is no g5 because rook e4 and rook to a4. So little trick by Firuza. Still g5 played by Veslisson. So after rook e4, rook to a4, yeah, we have this rook b8 check. So now Veslisson is getting his rook to b1 and wants to play rook to a1. But is it enough to win the game? Can Firuza start running with the king? c6, d7, e7, and can he be fast enough to stop the pawns of white? a2 is a forced move, rook to a1. King d7 or king d6, okay? I think good chances to make a draw now. I mean, it's not so obvious any longer. Maybe king to g6, king g7, g6 sort of. I don't see at least an easy win. Veslisson, of course, has enough time, still over a minute on the clock, so it should be enough to find a win in case there is a win. But things are now not that simple any longer. King to h6 to keep the option of playing g6 and king g7. Interesting. Firuza with 40 seconds left on the clock. He's fighting now for a long time in a very difficult position. So, yeah, let's see. Let's go back to Magnus Carlsen. Knight to c2. Finally Magnus is able to get this annoying pawn on a3, but Aronian gets his king to d3. Then he's very fast with king to e3 and tries to get the pawn on g2. In case, of course, Aronian manages to get the pawn on g2, the position is a draw. To defend the position, knight and rook versus a rook, it should be quite easily doable for a player as Aronian. So Magnus needs to be very careful. He's taking the pawn on a3. We have the king to d3, rook to b2. Now the question is how to get the pawn on g2. How Aronian should try getting the pawn on g2. It is not simple. Not simple at all. So we have this rook to g4. King e3, king f4, king to g3. Magnus should try to get the knight. How to get the knight? Maybe over c2 to e1 could be something. Maybe possible. Looks pretty nice. I think knight to c2 is something that Magnus should consider now. In case knight c2 is working, yeah, Magnus does play knight to c2. So in case white manages to get the knight to e1, after king will follow and the position is winning. So Aronian has, yeah, basically two moves, one move to do something. After that, there will be no survival, and Aronian is trying with king to e2, so he goes around the white pieces. He tries to get his king to f1. The next moves are going to decide the game. There is knight to d4 check. So for example, knight d4 check, king f1 and knight f5. So of course black is not able to take on g2 because of knight e3 check. It looks winning. It looks winning in case of knight to d4, but maybe after knight d4 there is king to e3, but then we have knight f3 followed by knight to e1. So yeah, looks winning. It looks winning for Magnus Carlsen. And Veslesau against Firuza. Veslesau wins his game against Firuza. So we saw the position after king to h6. We have king to e7. Of course, king g7. Beautiful. Very important to have the king on g7. Positions after rook h4, rook takes a2, rook h3, g6 are winning. These are winning Rookan games. And we did already together some lecture with Liches on this Rookan games. For those who've been there, you know it is a winning position for white. So Firuza goes with king e6. He tries king f5 to outrun the white king, but yeah, the h-pawn is coming. King h6, rook a6, king to h7. Beautiful idea by Wesley. So in case of rook g6, suddenly there is rook f1 check, and white is getting the rook on g6. Rook to a4, h5. Yeah, now the game is done. Very nice plate. Very nice plate. Very nice game by Veslesau, outplaying with the white pieces Firuza in the first game of the match. Now we have still Magnus Carlsen fighting for a win. Yeah, we see the white knight on e1. So I think the game should not last too long. Now it should be pretty easy winning position. All that Magnus needs to do now is to get his king from d1 to g1. And then give a check on the third. So, king to d2. We can lay back and enjoy the technique of the world champion Magnus Carlsen, who seems to be winning his first game against Levon Aronian. King to e2. Indeed. Here we go. Magnus is getting his king to g1 as we thought. So, yeah. No hopes. There are no hopes any longer for Levon Aronian, and he resigns the game. We saw an amazing game, just an amazing game, and very entertaining as well. I rarely saw such beautiful rounds. We have 4 games. We have 4 results. Magnus Carlsen against Levon Aronian. An amazing game. Very high level game. In the end, Magnus Carlsen manages to win the game. We have Hikaru Nakamura against Jan Nepomniachtchi with this unbelievable move, c take b3. I mean, how to play such a move like c take b3? Insane, just insane, but seems to be very strong play by Nakamura. Unbelievable to take c take b3 to get your king open on the c file. Unbelievable play, so strong. by Hikaru Nakamura with a win against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Then we have Wesley So winning a very nice game against Firuza. So for the moment 3-0 for the white color. And then we have Anish Giri, who tried to mate Maxima Shilograf, but in the end got mated himself with this amazing escape of the black king, king c6. Just imagine you are black in such a position and you are able to get king c6. Unbelievable. Such a nice play by Maxima Shilograf. So yeah, very nice first round. I think the second round is going to begin in already couple of minutes, maybe 1, 2, 3 minutes, and yeah, we are facing the second round. Aronian for sure wants to get back into the match with a white color. We have Jan Nepomniachtchi with a white color against Nakamura. Jan Nepomniachtchi, we all know what he is capable of. Jan Nepomniachtchi is so aggressive. He is definitely able to win his games, but as well, he is definitely able to lose his games. Jan Nepomniachtchi can lose with a white color. He is not a guy who is super ultra solid. No, he is pushing. Jan Nepomniachtchi is pushing very hard. So I think it's going to be very interesting. We have Firuza, who is an absolute fighter, and this time with a white color against Wesley So, and Maxima Shilograf with white against Giri. So with white Maxima Shilograf, I believe he will be quite satisfied even to make a draw, because Anish Giri is not a guy who is winning a lot of games. So he lost first game with a white color against Maxima Shilograf. Now Maxim is white, I believe. We are gonna see a solid opening by the Frenchman, and in case the game ends in a draw, Maxim should be quite satisfied. Then game 3, all he needs is to make a draw with a black color, and the last game he is white again, and with the white color it is not that hard to make a draw against Anish Giri. Of course, I'm talking of an absolute world-class player as Maxima Shilograf. So Maxim with white, I believe we are gonna see a very safe game, and in the other 3 I expect a big fight. The games are going to begin in a couple of minutes. As we have already some games going on. We have Jan Nepomniachtchi against Nakamura already. 17 moves been played, and we have the Berlin. We have the Berlin played by Nakamura. He likes to play it even. It's a bit strange to me that Nakamura is playing the Berlin, because he is not an endgame player. Nakamura is somebody that is very strong with the queens on the board. He sees all these tricks, he plays fast, he's very good in the dynamic play. But right now we have Nakamura with the Berlin, and he does play a lot this line of Berlin. A bit surprising to me personally, but seems like he likes it. And we have the line with Bishop e6, and I like a lot myself the line of Bishop e6. Before, the line with Bishop e6 been not that popular, but I played a couple of games with Bishop e6. I think I have 3, 4, 5 games maybe with black on Bishop e6. And I remember a lot of guys been telling me, Arkadij, it looks so dangerous to play Bishop e6. Why are you playing it? And I felt quite comfortable in this line of Bishop e6. So now I'm quite happy to see Nakamura as well, switching at least in some of his games to Bishop e6. Because for a while it's been one of my favorite lines of Berlin for black. Now we have g4, so this is the main line, f4, yeah, e6. Everything is still theory except bishop to g5. Jan Nepomniachtchi is trying something new with bishop on g5. Very interesting. He's sacrificing the boss pawns. A pawn on h3 is hanging, yeah? So Jan Nepomniachtchi sort of tries to play all in game, or he's going to win or he is going to lose. So a very important game and very important position right now for Nakamura. Nakamura seems to be a little bit surprised by this bishop g5, but Jan Nepomniachtchi is clearly in his preparation. Bishop on c8 is at the moment, of course, out of play. Still, the position of black is usually quite safe. King on e8. On one hand, it is badly placed. On the other hand, king on e8 supports all this blockade of the e6 pawn. So from the feeling, it should be okay. It should be okay for Nakamura. Let's see. Let's see how the game is going to develop. We have Firuza against Wesley So. No, they still did not start. And Maxim Shilograf against Anish Giri. So we see a very safe game. This is something that we expected. We have bishop b5 check. Funny that Giri switches to Naiditsch, and Naiditsch is the main opening of Maxim Shilograf. So sort of psychological trick by Anish Giri to go for the main opening of your opponent. Maybe this is something that he is doing before the candidates, because the candidates are starting the next month. It is going to be a tournament over the board. The first 7 rounds of the candidates been played the last year and in the Russian city of Yekaterinburg. And the next month they continue with the second half of the event and as well in Yekaterinburg. So both Maxim and Anish will face each other there, and maybe it's sort of a little bit of a provocation. Maxim is continuing with bishop b5, so we know bishop b5 is very safe, as well played by Wesley So in the last game against Firuza. And Wesley So managed to win his game quite easily, so bishop b5 is still dangerous. This line was c4, knight to c3 is nothing new. Bishop d7 as well, because in case now white is not taking on d7, the black knight might move somewhere from d7, and the bishop on b5 is suddenly clearly misplaced. There is going to black is able to get a6 then, so white is usually taking on d7. b3 is going to follow soon, and a4. Yeah, all is pretty normal. Objectively speaking, I think the position is equal. But from the tournament situation, let's call it like that, Maxim won his first game with black. So now with the white pieces, a draw is okay. Draw is perfectly fine, and I think this is what we are going to see. I think position of black is fine, position of white is very solid. At the moment, black still has just 2 main ideas of playing b5 and playing d5. So Giri is trying to calculate, is there a way of playing d5, is there a way of playing b5 to equalize completely. Maybe we're going to see bishop to e8, a safe place for the bishop. Still, I think d5 and b5 should be the main ideas of Anish Giri. Let's go for Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen still Magnus Carlsen is not playing, and Nakamura is taking the pawn on h3, and we have this move by Nepomniachtchi, played also at tempo, king to h2, unbelievable. And just think about it, how well the guys are prepared. We are facing move 18. It is an endgame, and Nepomniachtchi is clearly still in his preparation. It is amazing. Chess has changed a lot over the last maybe 5 years, 10 years, where we have these super strong engines. They are changing the game. So we see a lot of this hardcore preparation. And I think it is one of these cases. Nakamura is facing a big pressure because he knows he plays against an engine basically, because right now Nepomniachtchi is still in his preparation, and as well Nakamura knows that the position should be fine somehow, because otherwise he would know this move bishop g5. So Nakamura knows on one hand he should be doing fine, but on the other hand he knows he needs to find the right path over these complications, and it is not a simple one. Look at this king on e8. Position of black is definitely dangerous. On the other hand, in case Nakamura defends well, I think he might be even able of winning with the black pieces. Very interesting game. So, Firuze against Wesley So, no, they did not start yet. And Maxim Vashilograf against Giri. So we have the move d5. So this is what we've been talking about. d5 should be the main approach for black. And Giri is playing d5. We have Maxim Vashilograf with e5 and knight to e2. Very interesting. Just check. He cannot take on d5 because there's rook takes c3. So to avoid this, rook takes c3, and at the same time to defend from d takes c4, Maxim is playing knight to e2. Very beautiful. Very, very nice. Now the queen on d1 is attacking the bishop on d7. There is no more d takes c4 because of queen take d7. And c take d5 is still a very serious threat. And I believe personally Giri has underestimated a little bit this approach by Maxim Vashilograf of playing knight d to e2. Because Giri is thinking, and in case he finds nothing, and after c take d5, I believe the position of white is just better. So let's see. Let's see if Giri manages to find something to fight this c take d5. Yeah, hard to tell. Hard to tell from the feeling. It should be okay for black, but I'm not sure. The position is quite dynamic and c take d5 is a serious threat. So what do you think, guys? How will the game end between Maxim Vashilograf and Anish Giri? Will Anish Giri be able to survive, or do you think that Maxim Vashilograf is going to take the lead with a 2-0, which I think is basically a game over for the today's match? Give your opinion, because the chat is so silent. Why the chat is so silent? Maybe everyone is afraid of No Joke, the big admin. No Joke, I don't know if you are listening. Did you make the guys afraid? Thank you, Virgil, that you like the coverage. Yes, no joke. Maybe some chess players are a little bit shy. That's true. I remember myself when I've been a young boy, I've been very shy. This might be true about the chess players. Yeah. I think it comes, the chess players are usually facing one-on-one, yeah? So this is a fight of one-on-one. You are focusing on what you're doing. It is not really a team sport, so yeah, I think a lot of chess players are a bit shy. This is true, no joke. Okay, anyhow, let us go back to the positions, and we have Anish Giri with knight to c7. So he's defending the pawn on d5. Still, we have this big pressure on the d file. Not sure yet that Anish Giri is doing fine. Personally, I think he might be still in danger. We have the c5 option as well. Very dangerous c5. After c5, I think Anish Giri must take the bishop on c5. Take a look at this queen on a5. They might be queen d4 threat and b4 afterwards. So we have this c5 option. I am bishop takes c5, queen takes c5. Now we have knight e4 and we have knight to b5. So the white knight is getting to the beautiful square on d6. The other knight is getting on d4. So we have this positional domination of the white pieces. And I think it should be enough compensation for white at least. So yeah. A very interesting option of playing c5. Let's see what Maxim is going to play next. There are few options, of course. A few options for white. Maxim is thinking, or did he move? I think he moved already. Just let me reload the website. Ah, yes, we have the move c5. Hey. So we are sometimes playing as strong as the best players of the world. c5, I thought it's dangerous, and Maxim Vashilograf is playing the move c5. So, no joke, maybe next time we should participate ourselves together as a team. What do you think, no joke? Or 2 against 1, they would think it is a cheating. Together we would have a chance maybe. Okay, so Maxim Shilograph with c5, knight e4, knight d6. A little bit as we predicted. White knight is getting to d6, beautiful squares. The other knight is getting on d4, so it is sort of positional pawn sacrifice. And I like the position of white. Of course, it is difficult to estimate to 100% white is better. Difficult to tell. I don't know. But I like the position of white. There's knight on d6, and we have this knight on d4, maybe even first queen to d4. I like very much the position of Maxim Shilograph. I believe he might be able even to try something with knight f6, but this is insane. To give a full piece, knight f6, g take f6, e take f6, and queen is getting to g4. So we have this knight d4, a queen somewhere. I am not 100% convinced. This is too much, I think. This is just too much, but knight d6 is looking nice. Of course, there is first a5 push as well, just to check if Anish Giri is taking the pawn on a5. Then knight d6 is coming. Knight take b7 followed next. Very dangerous position for Anish Giri, and Anish just cannot lose this game. In case he's losing now, there is 2-0, 2-0 for the Frenchman. It would mean basically game over. So Anish is fighting for his life in the first day of the match against Maxim Shilograph. North is down. Good evening. Good evening, North is down. Long time we did not hear from you. Okay, so let's check. Aronian, yeah, we see Aronian Magnus Carlsen already back to action, and we have the move d3 in Spanish. So usually d3 is not played that often because of bishop c5. Exactly. So Magnus is choosing just the best line, bishop to c5. Usually we see much more often short castle first, bishop e7, and now d3 because bishop c5 is sort of a loss of a tempo. This is why d3 is usually not played first. Even d3, of course, there are a lot of games on d3, and I played myself d3 for a quite serious amount of time, but bishop c5 I think gives sort of equality to black. So we have bishop g5. Aronian is going for it. He is allowing Magnus Carlsen to play this g5 and h5. Wow, a lot of action. I think many of us would not expect it because Magnus won the first game with the white pieces. So now maybe we could expect Magnus to calm down a little bit, secure a draw, or to have a positional game. But no. We have h5. Magnus is pushing for the second win. Knight to h7. It looks really strange what Magnus is doing. I mean, bishop g4 might be an idea of the world champion, but it looks so suspicious. Knight on h7, very badly placed. Of course, dangerous bishop on a7. There might be rook g8 coming. If we see the position long term, black might castle alongside somewhere, somehow, but it looks strange. It looks so strange to put the knight on h7. I think Aronian might be able to play somewhere d4 or something like that. I think it's time to crush in the center. The black pieces, in my opinion, are misplaced. Well, of course, who am I to judge the big Magnus Carlsen? But in my opinion, it looks a bit too risky. So, yeah, Nord is down, thanks. Yeah, and let's see what is going to happen next. King to h1. King to h1. What a play by Aronian. Why to get his king to h1? I think a very, very deep idea, but what could be his idea? King to h1, wow. Amazing. What could be the idea of king h1? Something very deep. I think he might be able to take now on g5 and play bishop h4, but still, to play king to h1. Wow, very, very surprising to me. King to h1, because in case, let's say, black is doing some empty move. Let's say black just checks. So we have like bishop d7 or something. In case white is taking on g5, I think we have h4. So king on h1, again the rook on h8 is very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Strange, a little bit strange. I would expect much more. This push d4. Yeah, king h1. Let's see how Magnus will react to king to h1. To me, it is very surprising, king to h1. It is something that usually you do not see often, so I cannot tell you guys much about king h1 because it is a very deep idea by Aronian at the moment. I have no idea why he played king to h1. Of course, during the next moves, we will discover what is actually the idea of Aronian. To the current moment, I cannot tell you why he actually played king to h1. Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So I'm learning with you. We are following games of top players of the world, of the absolute best. So yeah, we have to learn. We have to learn from the guys, and I'm learning with you. Let's see why king h1 is actually that strong. And let's go to Nepo. Nepo won already. Yeah, let us take a look at that. So we have Nakamura with gh and king h2. Now Nakamura thought, he played quite fast. Knight g6. There is knight e4 played a tempo by Nepomniachtchi because we have bishop on d6 coming. So knight e4, pretty normal. Rook to h5 by Nakamura. What a dangerous decision. Rook h5 looks very dangerous. Okay. Rook g1 by Nepomniachtchi, and still just take a look at the time of Nepomniachtchi. He plays a tempo rook to g1. So he still is in his preparation. Unbelievable. Nepomniachtchi seems to be working like crazy. Crazy working guy, Jan Nepomniachtchi, because usually Jan been a player that trusted a lot in his feeling, and it seems like he is now working on his chess like crazy, preparing for the candidates, because Jan Nepomniachtchi is having as well +2, so he is leading with Maxim Vashilograf the candidates, and we can see how deep is his preparation. Move 20, Rook g1 played at tempo by Jan Nepomniachtchi, unbelievable. A6 by Nakamura. This is surprising. A6, he wants to get c5, but I don't know guys. A6 looks a bit too slow, but maybe, I don't know. Rook to d1. The white rook is getting to d8, so we have this knight c6 coming, rook to d8 mate. Knight e7, Nakamura tries to avoid the mate. Rook to f1. So this is the first time that Nepomniachtchi actually had a thought. So he goes rook to f1, Nakamura with c5, and Nepomniachtchi with rook take f8. Nakamura just resigns. Unbelievable game by Jan Nepomniachtchi. So king take f8, bishop take e7. King takes to e7. Now we have rook takes to g7. King to f8, let's say. Rook f7, check. And there is this check, knight f6 coming next. Wow. What a game. What a game by Jan Nepomniachtchi. So, yeah. Very beautiful and spectacular play by Jan Nepomniachtchi. And 1-1 between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Hikaru Nakamura. Nakamura won a great game with the white pieces, and now, yeah, Jan Nepomniachtchi is showing some incredible theoretical knowledge, basically winning a game straight out of opening in the Berlin defense. So 1-1 in the match between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Hikaru Nakamura. Let's go to Firuza against Wesley So. So we are having here Italian game. So we have the Italian game with bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, d3. Lately Italian got extremely popular, and we have Italian game with the a5 move. Some players play with a6, some players play with a5. Wesley So seems to be a 5 player. Bishop e6, bishop a4, bishop b6, d4. Still all is theory, and we have this interesting positions, and a lot of pieces got changed. Actually, queen d7. Nice play by Wesley So. He wants to change the queens against Firuza. Usually it's a good choice. Firuza is stronger with the queens on the board than queens off the board. So queen d7. Now Firuza needs to decide if he takes on d7 and tries to play a bit better endgame, or he goes away. Queen c2, rook e8 with a pressure on the e4 pawn, and rook e1. So we have a position which is usually a bit better for white. So white has some slight advantage because pawn on c7 might get theoretically under pressure, and white is able to defend the pawn on e4 by playing f3. This is why such positions are, let's say, plus equal, maximum plus equal, maybe even less than that, but usually a bit better for white. The key idea of black to achieve equal standing is to get c6 work. So in case Wesley So manages to get c6 somehow working, I think it is going to be an equal position. And in case Firuza manages to avoid c6, white might be doing a bit better. North is down. After d4 Italian, I believe it is almost a forced draw according to the latest games. So d3, it is approach for a long play, and d4 is usually approach to test the memory of your opponent. Okay, so let us go to the next game, and it is Maxim Shilagraf against Anish Giri. So we have Anish Giri under huge pressure. The king on g8 is left alone against the pieces of white. There is rook g3 coming with the pressure on g7. There is queen to d4. Very dangerous, very dangerous as well, in case queen d4 is not possible, because the black queen is currently at b6 squares. There is queen to a1. We should not forget the white queen from a1 is really dangerous. So Giri in big trouble. Giri is in big trouble. On other hand, the position is quite forced. So, or Maxim Shilagraf is winning, or yeah, Giri is just having basically 2 pawns up in case he is able to grab the pawn on d6. Yeah, lonely warrior on d6. Yeah, North is down indeed. This is true. Very interesting. So we saw this move c5, nice sacrifice by Maxim Shilagraf. It's interesting that Maxim is not placing his knight on d4, so he is going for the black king. Knight h5 directly. Very sharp play by the Frenchman. And we have the move f5. Now the idea of Maxim Shilagraf should be to get somehow his queen on a1, on d4, to get to the g7 pawn. And Maxim, after quite a long thought actually, he plays rook c3 with the idea of playing rook to g3. Yeah, quite interesting. Quite interesting. Probably he'd been calculating for a while the move rook c7 because it just looks so forced, but queen d6. And now is the question how to get to the pawn on g7. So yeah, not easy, not easy, because in case of queen d4 we have this e5, quite annoying. So no easy way to get to the g7 square. What is the idea of playing f5? The idea of playing f5 is to avoid queen g4. Queen g4 with the pressure on g7. I think it is very crucial if white is in time to get to the black king, or yeah, black is just having a 2 pawns up position. In case of queen d6, for example, I think queen g4 is looking now extremely strong. Queen f8 comes too late. There is a check on f6 and knight take d7. So white is winning. Very interesting game as well here between Maxim Shilograf and Anish Giri. Let us check Firuza against Wesley. So we see some changes. Not really. We have the move rook e7. So probably Wesley So is thinking about playing c6, but maybe cannot find the correct approach to the c6. Queen c3 attacking the pawn on a5, pretty logical. And queen a4 played by Wesley So. First of all, he wants to take on e4. Okay. a2 is hanging. So, what is able Firuza to play against knight take e4 threat and queen take a2 threat? Let's see if he can try something with rook to g3 with this pressure on the g7 pawn. Very interesting. But I think Firuza underestimated the move queen to a4. From the first look, I think he missed it. He missed the move queen to a4 because we have as well these options of playing queen to b4 somewhere. To change the queens should be a good idea for Wesley So to defend his position. Maybe we're going to see rook to g3, let's say king to somewhere, h8, and maybe something like a3. So there is no more queen b4. a2 is now protected. And there is no knight take e4 because g7 pawn is hanging, yeah. Jeremy, it depends. What is the next move of white, yeah? First of all, knight take e4 is a serious threat, so it depends how Firuza wants to defend his pawn on e4 because it is the first target. And queen a2 might work afterwards, and let's say queen a2 b3 is still not so dangerous. I can play queen a3 queen b4, so I will get my queen out. Okay, let's see how Firuza is going to react at queen a4. Nepomniachtchi won this beautiful game against Nakamura, and we have Magnus Carlsen against Levon Aronian. And wow, what a change, I think Magnus Carlsen is doing better. Black is doing better now. I like Black's position more. Of course, the structure is not perfect, but we have the bishop pair. We have this amazing bishop on b6. Very nice. Magnus Carlsen is doing better. So Again, I cannot understand exactly what did happen because it looked like a better position for white. I think in case you would show this position to 100 guys and you would say, hey, who you think is doing better here? I think most of the people would say white, and I would say the same because it just looks better. You never see moves as knight h7. I mean, it is something very creative, definitely, but to play knight h7 and to hope to be equal, I don't think so. At least to my understanding, it's something very special, this knight h7. And now we have Aronian with king h1. we've been wondering what is actually the idea of king h1. So let's see how the game developed. And we have this g4, knight to h2, and now we have knight f8. So this might have been the main idea of Magnus when he played knight h7. Actually very nice, yeah, to play g4 followed by knight f8, knight to g6, and to grab this pawn on h4. And Aronian went on by playing d4. This is strange. This is very strange, because in case you play king h1, I would expect to maybe f4 should be the idea of white, because otherwise why do you play king to h1 in case you're not pushing f4? In case you would you wanted to play d4, this is what I thought, that d4 should be the move instead of king h1. But king h1 first and then to play d4, it looks a bit strange to me. Hard to understand. I mean, I have no idea why to play king h1 first and then d4, and not first d4 and then let's see what happens. So bishop c6, de. This it is not looking great what Aronian is doing, and I think Magnus is having clearly a better position with 7 minutes against 3 minutes of Aronian. The knight on b3 is badly placed. There is a4 coming. We have a huge bishop on e6. The bishop on g3 is completely out of game. The bishop on g3 is basically just a pawn protecting the h4. The only chance of white is to play somewhere f3 to get the bishop back into the game, but it looks just bad. a4 is coming next. At some point Magnus is going to put his rook on d8, might be even b8 first to provoke something. In my opinion, the position of Magnus Carlsen is clearly better, and I'm not speaking of a little bit better here. I think the position of Magnus is seriously better. So it's going to be a very hard task now for Aronian to hold a draw. So still we have this question, why actually Aronian played king to h1. This is something that the game did not show. Why king h1 been the best choice. So strange. I still cannot explain the move king to h1. In case Aronian wanted to go d4, I think he might have tried to play d4 instantly. But to play first king to h1 and then to play d4, take on c6 as well looks a little bit strange, to take on c6. And in this sort of structures, I think black is just doing perfectly fine. In case we take an objective look at this position, it looks just nice. It looks very nice for Magnus Carlsen. We have bishop pair for black, bad bishop on g3, black king on e8 is feeling pretty safe. Yes, I think Magnus should be very happy at the current moment. Okay, let's go for Firuza against Wesley. So now we have this f3 play. Seems like Firuza been not afraid of queen take a2. Maybe after queen take a2, b4 or something. I don't know. B4, no. B4 is probably nothing. So why not to take on a2, b3, queen to a3. So the black queen is getting to b4. Maybe knight c4, queen b4, take on a5. Yeah, white should be doing a little bit better. Or we have this knight take d5. So black is in time. Black is just in time. So not sure why not to take on a2. Of course it looks dangerous to take this pawn on a2, but on the other hand, in case we can take a pawn, you take a pawn. So yeah, probably there is something. There is something, but hard to find so fast. And Wesley plays queen to b4. This is something that we've been talking about. It is nice for black to reach an endgame. It will be more simple to play c6 afterwards. So Wesley So is going for the endgame. We have b take c3. Of course, rook takes c3 is not possible. Still, there is this trick with knight to d5. Rook on e1 is hanging. So b takes c3, a4, covering the square on b3. And next, black is going to put his pawn on b6. The rook is getting to a8. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that Firuza is actually having a better position. The black knight is getting over d7 to c5. Beautiful square for the black knight. For white, it's so difficult to get to d4. And black will be always able to play f5 or g6, f5, some counterplays. This is why also Firuza is playing g4. Of course, he's trying to advance a bit his pawn structure. Knight d7, knight c5 is something that probably Wesley So is going to play next. Let's see. Maybe he will try even to get g5 work, but I'm not 100% sure about moves like g5. There might be knight f1, knight g3, knight f5, so you must be very careful. Knight d7 now, knight c5 is looking like a more safe idea. Yeah, Wesley So is choosing this knight d7, knight c5. Pretty normal, pretty normal. And then maybe g6, f5. This is something quite typical and normal. Okay, Maxim Vashilograf against Giri. And Anish Giri wins with black. Amazing turn of the match. Maxim wins first game with black pieces, and now Anish Giri wins. It looked so nice for Maxim Vashilograf. He tried to go for the kill against Anish Giri. He tries rook c3, rook to g3. No, queen to d2 first. So he wants to get his queen to g5. Anish Giri just takes the d6 pawn very calmly. Oh, rook c1. This is a very bad sign. I mean, in case you give two pawns and then you are playing a move as rook c1, it means something went wrong, and something went very seriously wrong, not only a little. Pity for Maxim Vashilograf. He played, in my opinion, really nice. Really beautiful sacrifice, and it seems like he couldn't find a way to mate the black king. Of course, I cannot do it better than Maxim Vashilograf, and as all of you know, I am never checking during commentaries something with an engine. I think it is not fair, and I think we are just taking away the fun away from these beautiful games. So I do not know if Maxim could have done something better, or maybe it was just a wrong sacrifice. From the feeling, I would have done the same as Maxim Vashilograf. I would have sacrificed the pawn with c5. It just feels right. It feels good. But Giri defended so well. Yeah, so well. And yeah, Maxim finds out I'm just 2 pawns down, and there is no obvious compensation. Rook g3, rook f7, yeah, everything is just protected. And now the black pawns are rolling. What can we say about it? Bad luck. Bad luck for Maxim Vashilograf. Of course, right now, this kind of attack is not serious any longer, because the black pieces are just perfectly placed. Maxim Vashilograf just resigns. Yeah, big pity. A big pity. Tough loss for Maxim Vashilograf, who won the first game with black pieces. He tried to win the second one with white. He sacrificed. In my opinion, he had just bad luck. It looked nice for white. From the feeling, it looked good. But in fact, seems like, yeah, it was just nothing. Chess is a tough game. Chess is a tough game. One wrong move, one wrong decision, and you just yeah, you are just getting punished by your opponent, especially in case we're speaking of top chess players, of top class chess, every mistake matters. Even a small mistake, might lead already to serious trouble. Giri is back. Anish Giri is back. 1 against 1 in the match against the Frenchman. Let us check on Magnus Carlsen against Aronian. Magnus won the first game, and now with the black pieces, he is trying to push. He is pushing with the black pieces. We can clearly see still the bishop on g3. Terribly misplaced. The knight is getting to d6, then to c4. In case Magnus manages to get his knight to c4, the game is done. The game is just done. So Aronian needs to do anything in his power to avoid this knight f7, knight d6, knight c4. Aronian is planning to get his second rook to f2 with the pressure on the f6 pawn. There is still bishop c4 taking the rook on f1, but then rook f5 might be possible. So we have the last move of white, rook f1, clearly played by Aronian in order not to allow knight f7, knight d6, which is a death sentence. In case Magnus gets his knight to d6, there is a pawn on e4 hanging, knight to c4. It is just a game over. Interesting. 2 minutes 20 for the world champion, and we have Aronian just with 26 seconds. So Aronian is on the limit. In case he is going to lose this game, it will be 2-0 for Magnus Carlsen, and the match we could call it almost impossible to be back for Leon Aronian. Thank you, no joke. And Virgil Van, that you like as well. Commentaries without an engine. I believe this is something that is much more objective. Let's call it objective, because we see so many comments up today that guys who are not capable, even dreaming of making a draw against a grandmaster, they're commenting like grandmaster made mistake here, grandmaster made mistake there, and I think it is just wrong, because one thing you have an engine saying something, the other thing is you have to find it with your own head, and exactly, no joke. It kills completely the conversation. Exactly, no joke. I totally agree. And also I think we do not understand why engine is saying something in so many cases. We are just repeating what engine thinks. It does not help us. Okay, let's go back to the game, and we have bishop e1. So Magnus Carlsen tried to make huge pressure on the d file. Pawn on c5 is hanging still. Magnus is able to take on a2. White is still suffering. It is not a draw in my opinion. Still, Aronian has to play very well to achieve the best possible result, and it is to make a draw. Amazing move by Magnus Carlsen. What is g3? Just take a look at this beautiful knight takes c5, bishop g4. What a trap by the world champion. Unbelievable. G3. Rook take d6. Now we have cd. The knight on c5 is hanging and the rook on d1 is hanging. What an idea by the world champion to play g3. Unbelievable. It might be a decisive move of the game. So we have g3 with the idea of playing bishop to g4. Unbelievable. g3. Just take a look at the move of the world champion. g3. So beautiful. g3. He's getting his bishop to g4 and he's defending against this idea of playing knight takes c5. In case Aronian has nothing, he just might resign directly. If there is no defense against bishop g4, white just resigns. g3 out of nowhere. g3 and the game might be over. cd. The knight is hanging on c5 and we have this rook hanging on d1, so it might be already now very close to 2-0. Yes, it is 2-0 for Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen winning another amazing game, and this time with the black color. So 2-0 for Magnus Carlsen. g3. What a killer. What a killer. And we can see how sharp Magnus Carlsen is. Aronian clearly missed. He played almost at tempo bishop e1, and indeed you are just focusing on the move knight takes c5. You are not thinking about g3, you're thinking maybe about bishop take a2, and still, of course, black is having, in my opinion, a better position, but there are some chances for white to make a draw. You are not considering at all even to take a look at the king side. You have knight on h8, so you're thinking maybe knight g6, maybe knight f7, maybe bishop take a2, and then out of nowhere there is coming g3. Bang. Unbelievable. What a beautiful move. What happens if you go knight c1? I think the same. Bishop g4 should be the idea. So you take d6, I take cd. Looks nice. Also after knight c1, maybe even I can take on d2. Then I go knight g6. Okay, you might be able to fight for a draw. Yeah, this is true. This is true. That shows in Jan. But I think Aronian just missed knight c1. Maybe he should have tried to play knight c1. Yeah, it is not lost immediately. Yeah, sure. Knight c1 maybe been the best choice. Yeah, I think Aronian didn't see knight c1 and lost the game. But I think he just panicked. To get g3 is something that you really do not expect, and then you get g3 and you panic a little bit, and yeah, you lose the game. Okay. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, sometimes it pays off. Yeah, indeed. So we have Magnus Carlsen 2-0, winning an amazing game against Aronian, now with the black color. We have Jan Nepomniachtchi with white in Berlin. Basically, no play. Jan Nepomniachtchi wins straight out of opening. A beautiful game to watch. 23 moves total. So 1 against 1 against Nakamura. Jan Nepomniachtchi Nakamura 1-1. 2 more games to go today. We have Firuza fighting now against Vesely. So Firuza lost the first game, so now he tries to win with the white pieces, and he is doing better. Now we can be quite sure white is doing better. We did not pay much attention during the last 3-4 minutes to the game, so we will watch now what has been the latest moves from Firuza and Vesely. We saw actually which position we saw last. I think we saw this position. I thought that we have approximately an equal game, but maybe I've been wrong, and maybe white is still doing better. Even I don't know. It feels not that bad for black. Feels like okay, there should be something, but I might be wrong. g6, knight e3, king to g7, rook h8. Very strange move. Rook h8. Vesely tries with h5, but I'm not sure. h5 is g5 is coming now. The square f6 is under control. I'm not sure, guys, if Vesely really needed to play h5. Maybe he should have kept on waiting. Of course, white might be doing a bit better, but I don't think that white is having quite a serious advantage. So h5 helps a little bit Firuza to advance. So g5 now. h4. Okay. Yeah, basically Vesely just keeps on waiting. He just keeps on waiting. Firuza gets his rook to d4, preparing maybe to play f4 next. Yeah, sort of very funny fight. Yes, the black rook is just keeps on moving. Rook h8, rook h5. Knight g4, finally. There is no rook to g5 because of f4, I guess. And the rook on g5 is captured. No more moves left. So we have this move, rook e7, knight f6, rook h8. Now Firuza is winning the pawn on d6. And rook b7 by Vesely, trying to get some counter chances. Yeah, it looks bad. It looks bad for Vesely, but maybe he will still get some chances. The a-pawn is strong. We should not underestimate the a-pawn. Still, the game is not over. And Wesley So is very tough in finding resources. Wesley So is really a guy, he fights till the end. He can find so many only moves in a row. Wesley So is really capable of playing, I don't know, 10 only moves. And Wesley So still with 2 minutes 40. It seems to be a repetition even instantly. It's interesting because Firuza is not trying to get rook to d2, not even trying. We know that Firuza is an absolute fighter, so in case he could, he would play rook to d2, but it is obvious that he's thinking it is not working. It is just not working, so what might happen in case of rook to d2? We have rook take d2, king d2, there might be something like a3 now. Rook takes c5 and we have this rook a8, so a2, a1 might follow next. I'm not 100% sure. As well, the black king is almost trapped in a mating net, but web, in a mating web. But yeah, maybe there is nothing to do against a2, a1, so Firuza will be forced to make a draw. No, Firuza plays on. Firuza never makes short draws, and after king f1, well, yeah, the a pawn is now even more dangerous. Let's see how the game will end. Knight b3 by Wesley So. So knight d2 now is a direct threat. Firuza plays rook cd6. Just a second, let me update the site. So we have a3 move. Wesley So now even with some chances of winning the game because the position is very, very uncertain. Rook d8. So we have the mating web that we've been talking about, but there is rook f8, for example. No, there is no rook f8. Yeah, because white would take and check. So we have knight d2. Amazing. Rook g8. Mate is coming next. Is there a way for Firuza to escape? In case of king e1, there is check. Knight f3. King to d1. And we have this rook d2 check. And now it is black who is winning. a2 is coming next. So white is not able to go with his king to d1, and I guess, yeah, here we are having a position where black will just take on g5, and I think Wesley So is just winning. So yeah, who is winning actually now, white or black? This is a question. Who will be the winner of this game? And we have knight d2 check. I think Firuza missed knight d2 check. King to e2. Yeah, he clearly missed because he thought now 35-40 seconds before playing king to e2, so he missed it. We have knight e4, and Wesley So is thinking to take on g5 or to take on f6. Wow, what a surprising turn of this game between Firuza and Wesley So. Firuza been making pressure for over 50 moves. Firuza tried to win his game, and suddenly now it is already Wesley So who is dominating and who might be able to win this position, this rook endgame. Let's see if it is a winning one or it is a draw. From the feeling, I think Firuza should have decent chances to hold a draw. Rook a8, perfect. In case he gets his rook to a5, it should be a draw. Rook a1 with the idea of playing a2, so the white king should go to f2. I don't think white king should go to f4, little tricky. I would put my king to f2, feels more safe. a2 and king to g2. I think after that it is a draw. Firuza checks first on a6. Why he checks first on a6? Not sure. Okay. Why to check first on a6? I think directly king f2 should have been as well. Something that might be enough to hold a draw, but maybe rook a6. Okay, does not change much. Let's see. North is down, yeah. Time control is indeed 15 plus 10. So let's see. Let's see what happens next. If Wesley So manages to find some idea to win this game, because Wesley So won his first game, in case he wins now with the black pieces against Firuza, the match is basically over 2-0, and we know how safe Wesley So is actually. He's so safe with the white pieces. I don't think there will be a way for Firuza to get back to the fight. But let's see. Let's see. Once again, first of all, Wesley So needs first to win this game. And it is not an easy task. Maybe it is just a draw. We see the players repeating the move. So Wesley So is not even trying to win the game. Okay. I'm a bit surprised, because why not to give a short try to win? There is absolutely no risk for a black. Wesley So can try with a lot of different moves. King d7, yeah. Okay, so Wesley So is not making a draw. He continues. King to f2, as expected. Firuza is getting his king to g2. This is what we've been thinking about. Now we are going to see this move a2, king g2, king to c7, and or maybe first g5 actually to have this tempos. Yeah, so a2, king g2, and g5 will be played by Wesley So. G5 is important, so we have this tempo. White is not able to play f4 next, so g5 first. Then black, I guess, is able to win the c4 pawn, and then it is hard to tell. Is it a draw or is it a win? Difficult to say. I am not sure. I am not sure. Maybe. Hard to tell if this is a winning position or it's a draw. Wesley So is giving opportunity for Firuza to play f4. He's not doing it. So king b7, king to c6. The c5 pawn is going to fall. So we have this rook endgame, and the question is it a winning one or is it still a draw? c5 pawn is going to fall. King to d5. There is no hope for the c5 pawn. Still g5 is possible. Yeah, g5 and c5 pawn is gone. But without the c5 pawn, I'm still not sure if the position is winning. King h2. Wow, what is king h2? Rook f1 is possible now. Why king to h2? This is something so strange. I would just stay with the king on g2, for example. Just keep on waiting on the a file. And yes, I think it is a draw. At least I don't see a way to win this position. I think it is a draw. It looks like a draw, so. And king to h2, it gives some chances to black to play rook f1 and rook take f3. I think a very risky play by Firuza. It does not feel so safe. I don't know. From the feeling, it looks dangerous. It looks very dangerous. Let's see what is the next move of Wesley. So king to c4. Wow. c6. Okay. King to b3. Amazing. King to b3. So now rook c1 is going to follow. How to defend against rook c1 now? Rook b5 is not saving the game any longer. Rook c1. The next move of Wesley. So c7. Rook to c1. What is the idea of Firuza? I don't see a save. Rook takes c7 and this game over. Is there something? Is there something that Firuza can still achieve? Is there a way to make a draw for white? Rook takes c7. Firuza just with 17 seconds on the clock. He needs to find something. Very low on time. Rook takes c7 is the next move of Wesley So. If there is nothing, Wesley So is the winner. 2-0 for Wesley So. It seems like Rook a7. No. Firuza is losing. Firuza is losing the second game with the white pieces. Yes, of course, it is a big pity because Firuza been pushing for over 50 moves and suddenly Wesley So is the winner of this game. Well. Yeah, it feels pity. It feels very pity for Firuza, but this is top level chess. You make one mistake, you play a great game. Firuza played a great game and I think he'd been obviously better, but you make a mistake and you will get punished. Wesley So is in the second game with the black color, the Punisher. Firuza plays well, makes mistake and gets instantly punished by Wesley So. And still, this is what I meant. You are not playing King H2 in case you think it is a draw. And I think this position is a draw at least. I don't see how to win this position with black. You just keep on waiting on the A file and I don't see a way of winning this position for black. I think it is a draw. I might be not correct, but from the feeling it is a draw. And yes, so when you think it is a draw, because let's say f5 is not working, g4, white needs just to be careful to take with the h pawn. Of course, to take with the f pawn is a big mistake because there is f4 and f3 coming, after which the position of black is already winning. So we have this f3 and the usual trick with rook h1. So rook take a2, rook h2, and black is winning. So after g4 we must be a little careful. We should be able to hold it after ag, and h3 we have the usual king h2. So this is just a draw. Now we keep on waiting. Even without the g4 pawn, it is still a draw. This is why, personally, I would never play a move like King H2. Maybe King H2 is actually the best, but it just feels so strange. I think Rook A8 and position is just a draw. Of course, yeah, indeed, King C4. Clearly, Firuza has missed the idea of King C4, but still, why to play the move C6? Still, he had the choice of playing rook to a8 because now at king b3 check we have king b3 we have the check on b8, so the black king must move somewhere. So we are getting back on a8. So still it might be a draw. The idea is that now after king b3, after check on b5, there is king to a4, and in case white gets back on b8, there is this check on h1. So this is a key winning idea of Wesley So. And still Firuza might, instead of c6, he might have avoided it by playing rook to a8. A bit strange play by Firuza. Maybe he got a bit tired, or maybe he was feeling that, well, he should have deserved at least to have a half a point, maybe just even a full point, and now he needed to fight for a draw. It's not easy. It's not easy to make this switch when you're having a winning position, and Firuza played a very nice game. Yeah, I mean, he sort of outplayed Wesley So, and suddenly he needed to fight for a draw. So, yeah. And here it comes, a big mistake. And we have Maxim Shilograf, who lost with white against Anish Giri. So we have 1-1. Maxim Shilograf against Anish. Both players won their games with the black color. Okay, guys, the next rounds I'm going to comment on my own Twitch channel. So we are now switching from the Lee Chess channel to mine. Of course, thank you for watching. For those who need to do now something better than watching the games, otherwise, please stay. I am going to comment on the last 2 rounds of today of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. In any case, I hope you enjoy my commentaries. Big thanks to Lichess as usual, and especially to No Joke, the admin on Lichess. So please stay with me. I am going to comment the next 2 games on my channel. And the games has begun already. So let me make the raid to my channel just a second, and No Joke as well, yeah, is helping as usual. No Joke, yeah, thank you very much. So the games has started. Magnus Carlsen against Aronian. Magnus just needs a draw. Let's see if I see you guys already on my channel. Yeah, I think so. Live screen, so I changed a little bit the interface. This is my interface. I hope the board is nicely visible. Yeah, it is. So hello everyone, welcome to my channel now. Before I've been commenting for Lichess, thanks to Lichess, and now we are on my channel. Thank you,